Welcome back to Retro Rebound. In today's video, we're taking a look at what I call the golden era of Activision, which I know may make some eyes pop out of some heads when they see that title, because with everything that's been happening with Activision as of late, I'm not oblivious to it. It may seem crazy to talk positively about this company, but in the early 2000s, Activision was a respectable publisher who was putting out a lot of quality titles, a lot of which I'm going to highlight in this video here today. Recently, Activision was acquired by Xbox for the staggering price tag of nearly $70 billion, easily becoming the most expensive acquisition we've seen in the history of the video game industry. Xbox paid the big bucks. And so with that, we're hoping through Xbox that a brand new work culture can be put into place at Activision, that they can replace the gross, grimy leaders that are currently there, and that they can instill creativity once more to start to bring games like this that we got from Activision in their early days back into the fold. It's obviously a big hope, but through this video, hopefully you can see some of the games that they did work on, that they were a part of, that were respectable, that were good, and that maybe we can get that era of Activision again. So with that, I have a lot of games to show you today. If you're new here, consider subscribing. We have a lot of retro themed content as always on the way, including one video this weekend that I am super excited about. So hit that subscribe button, keep an eye out for that. The bell notification, all that stuff is always great and helps these small channels that are growing. And with that, let's talk about the first game in the stack, which is, that's right, American Chopper, the golden age of I don't know why I own this. It's funny, you crack it open, Discovery Channel, check that out. Yeah, they were in on this game. Fun fact, when I was a kid, I used to live near these two. I hope they're doing well. Anyway, let's talk about actual games that Activision published that I think made them a respectable pub way back in the early PS2 days. Now, our first one was a meme. This second one is considered a meme, but I disagree. I'm talking about Shrek. Shrek had some good video games, these two specifically. Shrek Super Slam, Shrek 2. Okay, Super Slam is a Shrek Smash game, pretty much. My first encounter with this game was on the Game Boy Advance, and I gotta be honest with y'all, not that good. Remember my Game Boy Advance video when I mentioned how the cool part of that era was you get a console version that was one game, and then the Game Boy Advance version was something completely different, so double dipping was really fun when I was young? Well, sometimes you get something like Lord of the Rings Third Age, where you get this Fire Emblem style game in Lord of the Rings, and at other times, you'd get Shrek Super Slam. And so it's not always a winner, but Shrek Super Slam on console was a lot of fun with a great cast of characters. You can see a lot of them here. There were a ton of stages. I mean, it was such a fun game to have with your friends when they all came over, especially at my age. So Shrek Super Slam was good, but what was great was Shrek 2. And this is one of those games that I put in the same bin as Toy Story 3. It's my Dude Trust Me game. If you've never played Shrek 2, dude, trust me. This game is good. Do you like Marvel Ultimate Alliance? Do you like mini games? Do you like random fun objectives? Shrek 2. Shrek 2's got beat 'em up combat like Marvel Ultimate Alliance, and it's actually a respectable good game. It's not Shrek Supersized, I think it's called, which is the first one. I don't know if Shrek 3 got a game, and if it did, I never played it. But Shrek 2 was a good game. I'm serious. Try it out. Trust me on this one. You won't regret it. But of course, what I think is easier for all of us to identify with is an era of video games that resonates with all of us quite deeply, and that's the Raimi Spider-Man games. Yes, we did just make a video highlighting these three games. I'm not going to leave that out of the conversation just because we made a video on it. I'm going to talk about how good they are again. Spider-Man 1, one of the best box arts ever. I am a sucker for the Raimi suit, so I love seeing this bad boy here. It was my first true exposure outside of Spider-Man 64 to real comic book video games where they had a ton of different heroes and villains and cameos. It was such a level of exposure to me as a kid that it was amazing. Like, it's where I truly connected with the hero because I got to interact with him. Again, Spider-Man 64 was just this, wow, it exists game, but Spider-Man right here on the PS2, I will always be thankful for this game. But what I might be more thankful for is Spider-Man 2. Spider-Man 2 is the open world superhero game. And the only time it got a little bit feeling old and outdated is when Spider-Man on PS4 by Insomniac Games rolls around and it's actually legitimately good and builds off a ton of the pillars that this game had established. So Spider-Man 2, if anything, must be respected. And Activision did a fantastic job, I think, building up this superhero into an icon. It wasn't just the movies, it was the games. Like Spider-Man 3, you may notice here I got my 360 copy in the mail since our last video we filmed where I had a PS2 copy. This was $30 when I bought it. It has gone up since then. If you are buying Spider-Man games, best of luck to you as well, my friends, because thanks to No Way Home, whoop, up they have gone. But this is the 360 copy because I thought to myself, hey, Spider-Man 3 achievements. Yeah, that sounds pretty good. Spider-Man 3, though, with the black suit, Tobey Maguire, some funny lines in the games. Just like the movie, it's not supposed to be this funny B-tier thing. It's supposed to be taken very seriously. But it ends up being this funny, cheesy B-tier thing, and because it's so dumb, I love it. Beyond that, though, another game that we talked about is Ultimate Spider-Man. Ultimate Spider-Man was published by Activision as well. This is a game unlike anything we saw at its time, where we're getting nowadays M-rated superhero games. We're getting R-rated superhero and villain movies like the Joker. We're seeing things like that now. But back then, being able to play as Venom, eat a little kid, breaking backs, it was a gritty game. It was very gritty, very different for its time. And again, this game and Activision's work with the Spider-Man license, I think they should be commended for it because they did a really good job exposing a lot of people to different angles of Spider-Man. Now, as they got deeper into the Spider-Man license and you got to like the 360 PS3 days with, I'd say, Amazing Spider-Man 2, is where I started to really feel the wear and tear. There were some other misses, like I'd say Edge of Time was one of them that really missed. I think that one of the products of the fatigue of Spider-Man was Web of Shadows. I know a lot of people love it. I know it's a great game. I'm saying, though, that when the reviews came out, a lot of people were down on that game. I think now it's gone back up because it was such a unique, creative game. But I think the fatigue really started to hurt this license. But this was in the early days with the Raimi games, with Ultimate Spider-Man games, where some fantastic work was done. I wanted to highlight those nice and early in the video because I know we've talked about them before, just breeze by them. What I want to highlight more than anything, though, through Activision as a publisher, was their work with a developer known as Raven Software. And they were responsible for these 3 games here, among many others. So before we get into the 3 in my hands here, there are 2 games I want to talk about first and foremost. Number 1, Singularity, an original IP coming from Raven Software, very much inspired by BioShock, first-person shooter. It gives you superpowers. It's in a dystopian setting. Yeah, very BioShocky, but it does such a wonderful job. It's got multiple endings, choices throughout the game. Really, again, this is a dude trust me game. If you haven't played it, try it out, because when I played it, I was blown away that no one was really talking about this game when it came out. So try that out. Unfortunately, not in the collection. The other one, also unfortunately not in the collection, is Marvel Ultimate Alliance. This game, man. This game will get its own video on this channel. This game, man. This game. Oh my God. Okay. Ultimate Alliance was a fever dream of a video game for me as a kid. It was my introduction to heroes like Deadpool, who I thought was so cool. I'm like, there's a Marvel hero with 2 guns and 2 swords? What? It made me a Deadpool fan. He was my favorite hero for years because I couldn't believe this guy existed. And it's funny because I didn't know his personality was this idiot who was super sarcastic and pretty grotesque. I thought he was like this cool, serious mercenary with guns and swords, and you know, he's a goofball. So that was a surprise as I got older, but I loved Deadpool, and this game exposed me to it. But also, Ultimate Alliance 1 is an action RPG. So there were actual choices you could make in the story. I'm talking about Nightwalker and Jean Grey. Hello? Wow, what a moment. The comic book missions, the quiz machines, the amount of settings you visited, all by the hands of Raven Software. Put some respect on this company because they did some great work. But the building block for that game was this game right here in front of us. X-Men Legends 2, Rise of the Apocalypse. There was also X-Men Legends, which is in the mail. It didn't come in time for this video, so I do apologize. But this was a PS2 game, an original Xbox game, a GameCube game that was an X-Men game, action RPG, much like Ultimate Alliance, but it featured only the X-Men characters. Kind of cool when you think about it, because working it backwards, it's interesting to see how it developed into Ultimate Alliance. But this was the building block for Ultimate Alliance, so it means a lot to me in that regard. Wolfenstein, this game is cool now, especially because, as you can see here on the bottom right, id and Raven, both owned by Xbox. This game, though, the fact that it actually came before all of these acquisitions and deals were in place, and now both these companies are owned by Xbox. I mean, talk about things coming full circle. This is the game that's definitely due for a revival, I'd say, through like Game Pass or something. I like this game. I like this take on Wolfenstein. I do prefer Machine Games' approach as well. I love New Order. I love New Colossus. I think those games are great. But Wolfenstein as a dark fantasy game was a really cool idea. And I don't think that it gets enough credit for what it was. Again, Raven Software's involvement must be acknowledged. But this game also falls into the category of me just going, this game! This is an Ultimate Alliance type of this game! X-Men Origins Wolverine. This was a rental. I remember renting this game and going, oh, I thought I was just getting a nice little Wolverine game like we'll talk about in a second. Oh, this is something else here. Raven Software developed this. It's published by Activision. X-Men Origins Wolverine is one of the goriest superhero games ever made, M-rated. I don't know what it is, but I think just seeing these M-rated superhero games hypes me up because you know you're going to get finally a mature take on the heroes. And just a little bit of a side note, I hope one day we get an X-23 game. I've read the full comic volume for her. Love that character so much. Such an interesting story. But Wolverine, this game is disgusting. You'll pick people up and put them into helicopter blades. You'll chop people alive. I mean, it captures the character of Wolverine, who's this visceral hero. If you've watched the movie Logan, you kind of know what this guy's capable of. And this game is the only one, I'd say, that truly captured that just right. So this was a shocker just to fire it up after renting it at Blockbuster, thinking I was going to get this nice little X-Men game and actually seeing blood and guts everywhere. Really cool. Whack final boss. I believe I mentioned that here on the channel, but do not let this dissuade you at all. And as you can see, got that for a nifty 25 bucks. Not a bad price tag, but definitely a little bit more on the expensive side. But that's what happens when you go local, which I personally prefer. But there was a game that came before that, also published by Activision, and that was Wolverine's Revenge. X2 Wolverine's Revenge. This one's a funny story, actually, when I got this game, because I remember seeing it at a friend's house, and I ordered it on Amazon in 2012, all these years later, to get my own complete box copy, because I'd owned this when I was a kid, played it a ton, and when I ordered it, it's the only time I ever tried to get a used game from Amazon. This was $5 at the time. And yeah, they never sent it. So I will never buy a used game from Amazon again. End of story. But X2 Wolverine's Revenge. This game is, think of the, as you can see by the ratings, M-rated, T-rated. This was, you know, the E for everyone version of X-Men Origins Wolverine. There was still blood. There was still a lot of clawing by Wolverine. But it wasn't on the level of brutality. And I remember this game being kind of frustrating at certain moments if you didn't know what you were doing and you were a young kid. But I, again, love the boss fights here. It's Sabretooth, Juggernaut, Magneto. I just thought they were so fun. The stealth, the signature moves in this game, when you lined up people right and you hit like the circle button, I think it was, and you just leap off of people in these preset animations. It was very early 2000s, but oh, it was so satisfying to pull off when you got the setup just right. And continuing that X-Men legacy, I want to shout out a game that no one ever talks about, X-Men Destiny. This was a game where you create your own character and you join the X-Men world, customizing your power through 3 different trees with different storylines. I thought it was pretty ambitious for its time, but no one really talks about it. So the X-Men games, just in general, I feel like Activision did a good job with, and we don't get nearly enough X-Men games nowadays. But there was one that I haven't mentioned yet that I know probably a lot of you have been waiting for. Don't worry, Maddie didn't forget. Gotta talk about Tony Hawk. Tony Hawk. Yes, I only have the cartridge, and check the back of this. $4. You know, someone else owned this. This was back when I didn't care about these things, right? This would, if I picked this up off a store shelf, I don't care if it was free. I'd be like, no, you can have it. You can have it. It's yours. I'm a gross perfectionist when it comes to some copies coming in the mail, and I don't mind the stickers because I just let them stack up, as you've seen here, and I eventually remove them all myself in bulk. I still have a little bit more to add to the collection before I feel like it's time to do a bulk sticker removal. But with this here, on the back of an N64 cartridge, no. With the marker, no. Anyway, let's get back on topic. Tony Hawk's Pro Skater. Up until, I'd say, Project 8, or this is another Blockbuster rental story, I rent this game, Project 8, thinking like, oh, it's Tony Hawk. It's a surefire bet. Like, this is going to be a great weekend. I remember it was a Friday night. I rent it. Oh my God, I beat it in like 2 hours. I was so sad. I was like, well, I guess that's it. I guess that's it. And that was me coming off of games like American Wasteland. This is me coming off of games like, I'd say Underground 2, Tony Hawk Pro Skater 4. Like, those are to me, the trifecta of incredible Tony Hawk games. They clicked the most with me. Like, I remember Tony Hawk Pro Skater 4 had Alcatraz as a skate park level. Alcatraz. And then I loved American Wasteland because you'd build that amazing skate park by completing these heists and operations. I think in Tony Hawk American Wasteland, there was a mission where you were literally getting shot at. Okay. But on the note of the one we have in our hand here, Tony Hawk Pro Skater, they remade Pro Skater 1 and 2 on modern consoles. But yeah, I have not played the remake yet. I've played the originals, but I have not played the remake. This was another game that if you double dipped on your Game Boy Color, your Game Boy Advance, you were getting a pretty good game. I thought they were good clones of the skateboarding experience. Eventually, my talents were taken to the Skate franchise, whereas I don't know if I really look at it anymore, but I was a skater growing up. Like, I was always skateboarding a ton up until high school. Mid to high school is when I stopped. I had a lot of love for skateboarding though, and Tony Hawk was a real big reason why I did, because you'd see the tricks and want to imitate like the 40,000 kickflips you do in midair. You realized that wasn't too realistic, and then you went to the Skate franchise where the thumbstick movements and imitating the flicking motion you make with your foot on the skateboard, to me, helped the gears turn a little bit more, and it made me fall in love with skateboarding a little deeper. But it all started with this bad boy here, Tony Hawk Pro Skater on the Nintendo 64. So as you can see here in this shot, I mean, quite the number of games that they published, and not all of them here in the collection. Again, stuff like Ultimate Alliance isn't here. I don't have Singularity, but Activision, I thought, published some pretty good games. They've definitely made their mistakes. We didn't talk about Call of Duty here. I mean, Call of Duty was pretty crazy for its time. This was before they kept rerunning the same formula, and an actual World War II shooter with a AAA budget was pretty cool to see. They did great work with that, with Finest Hour, Big Red One. So they did a good job. And yeah, they definitely did water down some franchises like Spider-Man, like Call of Duty. Their reputation has gotten worse over time. But what I'm hoping with the acquisition of Xbox is maybe we can see this era of Activision return to some extent, where they work harder to provide more quality. That's all. That's all we're asking for. But I thought it'd be a fun video to make in light of the recent news. So let me know what you think of this era of Activision. Does a golden era for Activision exist at all? I guess that's up for you to decide and not just me. So with that, take great care of yourselves, and I'll see you in the next Retro Rebound. Peace out.